We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends if you want to support this Rebel Outpost. If you want to support the home for college football sickos, to help us keep the lights on, hit that $sign where you make your comment, and I'll get to your super chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome everybody into the studio, even the lawyers, even the commissioners. Welcome everybody into the studio that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to become a legend with your comments and with your phone calls. It was, for me, personally important to have a live show today. I don't think a whole lot of people are going to be joining us today. We're sitting here on a beautiful Saturday afternoon. You got the super regionals going on in baseball. And we had the big news that broke last night. We did a live emergency show last night, late last night. I know a lot of people were not able to talk about this. I want to give everybody an opportunity the day after to give us a phone call, to give us a chat, a super chat, to let you discuss what you want, what you think, where we're going, where we're headed and all this, what you like, what you don't like about it. Do you want to have it all blow up? Do you want this thing to survive for 10 years? Let me know. This is the show for you to really get out what you want to say when it comes to the House settlement. Again, we did a live show last night. I got a couple of DMs this morning. They were like, I didn't know you went live. I was busy. So we're going to do the day after live show today. So for people who were with us and who weren't with us, this is your opportunity. Now that we've all had this information marinate just a little bit, I want to hear from you. You guys know where I stand on this. I think all of you are sick and tired of listening to the fat guy from Minnesota. I'll say it one more time. This is not a solution unto itself. It could be part of a solution. A part of the solution that gets us through the next 10 years. And then maybe we can have a solution that works truly for everybody, especially for labor, the players, the student athletes. But we're not there yet, and we're not going to be there, guys and gals. People are all excited about the next lawsuits that are going to hit on Monday. Oh boy, we're going to get lawsuits. Oh boy, this is all going to go pear-shaped. I don't know if you've been paying attention or not, but there was already a class action lawsuit. And the NCAA and the schools already waved the white flag. And the settlement, part of the settlement is to structure the next 10 years and $2.8 billion back pay, and then have all this other stuff that is happening. Let me put it to you. Let me make an analogy. We lost. When I say we, the schools, the NCAA, they already lost. It was 60-7. That was the scoreboard. They settled with House. If they would not have settled, this would still be in the courts, and the punishment would be even worse. We didn't lose because of a judge's decision. We lost, the schools lost, the NCAA lost the game because they knew they were not going to win. Decades and decades and decades, especially the last decade, not letting the student athletes enjoy the fruits of a well-deserved name, image, and likeness value to themselves, just like any other student in the country. The schools lost already. So people are going, oh, the next lawsuits. I cannot wait. I cannot wait until this thing all gets destroyed. Don't you understand? The schools already lost. They've already, all of them had to sign on to this deal. You want this deal to blow up? How much bankruptcy do you want to happen in this country? How many athletic departments do you want to go under? I wasn't going to get riled up today. Nobody is pointing to the settlement of a class action lawsuit as the solution. But it has to be the start of the way out of this mess. And if it ain't going to be the start, if it ain't going to be the start of getting out of the hole, it's going to be the start of burying ourselves even more. It's going to go one way or the other. Two things need to happen. This settlement needs to get codified, or it's all going to go pear-shaped. The second thing that needs to happen, the schools need to obey the rules in this settlement. Because if it doesn't, the House lawyers are going to rip up this settlement, take us all to court, and your school ain't going to be paying a slice of a $2.8 billion back pay. Your school is going to be paying the slice of a $20 billion back pay penalty if this goes back in the courts. Again, for those who are rooting for the destruction of all, I don't know where you're coming from. Honestly, we already lost. The battle, I shouldn't say we. I'm talking about the NCAA, the schools, the motto that they've been enjoying for decades, it's no more. It's gone. They lost. And this is the settlement. And if the schools cannot fulfill its obligations in the settlement, what do you think is going to happen? What do you think is going to happen if the schools, remember, every school signed on this deal, if they cannot fulfill the obligations of the settlement, do you think it's going to get better for the schools or worse? It's going to get worse. So that is where we're at. Now, a lot of you disagree with me. Let me know in the chat room. Let me know with your phone calls later in the show. We're gonna hit. I'm not gonna go through this. Me personally, I'm not gonna spend any time on this live show going through the settlement. All of what is in the settlement. I did that on a live show last night, an emergency live show. What I want to talk about today, besides what you all want to talk about, what you think about the settlement, is the path going forward and one particular part of this settlement, which is the clearinghouse, the Deloitte clearinghouse. How is the Deloitte clearinghouse going to judge these NIL submissions? Of course, we really do not have an answer to that, but we have some general guidelines given to us last night. So we're going to go over that a little bit, but before we do any of that, we're going to do a roll call here at PATC Live Show. The sickos are in the room. We're going to do a roll call. Thank you all for joining us. And we're going to talk some football. We've been doing this all off season. We're going to talk football. We've already done the all Big 12 offense, all Big 12 defensive team, all Big 12 special teams. We've done the all ACC offensive team, the all ACC defensive team and special teams. Yesterday we did the all Big 10 offensive team. Today we're going to do the all Big 10 defensive team, special teams per Athlon Sports. Let me know where you agree or disagree with Athlon Sports all Big 10 defensive team. There is some guys on this all Big 10 defensive team that I cannot believe they did not go into the NFL draft. I tell you, this world of rev share, of this NIL money, because remember, even in this Deloitte NIL, players are still going to be making big bucks with their NIL deal. It ain't, maybe the top 1 or 2% of the players ain't going to reach these incredible numbers, but they're still going to make a lot of money. Your billionaires out there are still going to have an effect, a positive effect on your roster, on your ability to recruit and maintain, as long as these NIL deals are for, business purposes. The rev share and the NIL deals are keeping these some of these top college football players to stay at their school for yet another year. There is a lot of guys on this all Big Ten defense that 3 or 4 years ago probably would have already went to the NFL draft. But because they're making money in college sports, college football, they are coming back. There is a lot of talent on this all Big Ten defense. Okay, let's do a roll call. Georgia Bulldogs, Don Scruggs is here. Don Scruggs is in the house. Georgia. Bo Weevil is here. Bo Weevil, go Clemson. Bruce Harris, Boomer. AMAC, Mr. Monkey says, Jim Reese, Stormy Cyclone. He's processing it all. Thomas is in the house. MBM, Oklahoma State Cowboy is here. Finally Tune. How many lawsuits have already been filed to stop this cluster? Again? There is no stopping this. It's almost like people are, first of all, there's going to be lawsuits starting Monday. Okay. They're coming. They're coming no matter what. But they're coming on in. Okay? They're coming on in. But this cluster is because the schools and the NCAA have lost. They would have lost. It would have been a worse defeat if they would have kept going in the... I'm not sure... How do I say this? People want to destroy this lawsuit settlement by rooting for more lawsuits to come on in. Eventually, what do you want to happen? I think there are people out there literally, and I'm not talking about finely tuned, although there are people literally out there wishing for complete destruction of college sports. Why? To punish the schools even more? All you're doing at some point, all you're doing is punishing opportunity. Basically, at the end of the day, the student athletes are going to lose more and more opportunities, more and more scholarships. This settlement, it had to get done. This had to be approved. It has to get codified. And everybody's got to follow the rules. It doesn't matter, like this cluster, this is what we got. If we don't follow this cluster, what do you think's going to happen? Do you think your school is just going to be able to avoid the House settlement? Do you think your conference is just going to be able to avoid it? Do you want your school to pay $100 million in back pay? $200 million? How quick do you want your school to go bankrupt, your athletic department? Honestly, because when I'm reading these message boards saying we can't abide by these rules. Your schools sign on to the rules. I love college sports. I love college football sickles. But there is an element among our sport in which It almost seems to be more important to destroy everything than to try to survive this period of time and improve upon it when we have an opportunity. Bo Weevil says it's time to spot the ball. Edward, the Auburn Tiger, is in the house. Skaven, yes, is here. I want the settlement enforcement arm to have teeth. Well, we're going to find out. Supposedly, if the enforcement arm says this booster violated this school violated this, the punishment comes in, and if the schools and everybody, we do not follow the rules, what happens? What happens if the sport commission enforcement arm, nobody follows it? What happens? What do you think happens? The House lawyers are going to rip up the settlement, and your school that you root for, that you buy tickets for, is screwed. Don't worry about all the other lawsuits. You are screwed in this lawsuit if you don't fulfill your obligations to the settlement. And one of those obligations is the sports commission, the enforcement arm. Dad, yo, Gray, thanks for coming on in. Appreciate it. Papa Cade, Sicko is reporting. B-Bean B is in the house. Players should get as much money as they can at all times, regardless of the consequences. Okay? This is what this settlement basically does, in reality. About 95% of the football players in 2025, because of rev share, are going to make more money than they have ever had before. Their compensation level is going to go higher than ever before. Players are going to be making money that they've never made before. About 95% of your football players. 95% of your basketball players. That's reality. Schools are going to be paying about $15 million of that $20.5 million direct payment to your football players. $15 million. Now, there are some schools out there that were paying $15, $20, $25 million in NIL. Those schools are going to be paying $15 million in rev share and still millions in NIL deals. So the football players, the basketball players are going to be making more money because of this settlement. About 95% of them. I hope people understand this. You know what this settlement, you know who this settlement hurts? Talking about players should get as much. Okay, maybe the top 1 to 2% football players and basketball players are not going to quite get that pay for play deal. A Rashada isn't going to get $12 million right away as a freshman quarterback. The top 1 or 2% of the players that money might not quite come in as it did. And the agents might not quite have the power, a handful of agents that they had before, and a handful of billionaires might not quite have the power as they had before. But 95% of the football players that lace it up, put a helmet on, put the chin strap on, they're benefiting way more because of the settlement than before. So when we're talking about player benefits, this is not perfect, but it's better than it's ever been. I hope people keep the eye on the ball when it comes to that. Really. Because some messages out there, people are acting like this is the worst thing that's ever happened. What planet have you been living on? What planet have you been living on? More players are going to get paid more money than ever before. More schools are paying more money to their players than ever before. Big Gun Shop is in the house. Preston from Greensboro is here. Big Gun Shop. Thanks for coming on in, Big Gun Shop. Appreciate it. Struthers is in the house. Call Me David is here. The Architect is here. What was this number decided by an administration? What they thought was fair? How was the 20 million cap decided? It was decided per the settlement. All of this was decided. The schools and the NCAA were screwed. They were going to be defeated. This case was going. They were guilty as charged. So they were going to lose. So they went into an early settlement, try to get an early settlement deal with the House lawyers and with a couple other cases that were folded into this settlement. So they went back and forth. NCAA, the schools, the lawyers. The $20.5 million rev share was 22%. That's the number that they all hit on. 22% of the average revenue that would come in on an average athletic department within the Autonomy Force schools. You couldn't count booster donation, but you could media money, ticket sales. There's a few items there that they all took. So they said 22% of the average revenue that came in from the athletic departments. The average athletic department among the Power 4 conferences and Notre Dame. Okay. So if you take 22% of that, that's about $20.5 million. That number is going to go up as the years go on. And there are projections that that number could reach about $33 million at the end of this 10-year paying off this settlement. Now, if you take that $20.5 million rev share, you take in the stipend that you pay to students on the Alford case. If you take in the money spent by scholarships, and if you take all the expenses from the athletic department to these student athletes, 50% of the revenue approximately is going to labor, which is basically what it is when it comes to these professional sports. So on the one hand, no, there wasn't representation for labor to come up with that number. On the other hand, the number that they came up with was, you can see that basically these athletes are being compensated about the same percentage when it comes to total revenue like their professional peers in these successful professional leagues. So it's the good and the bad of it. The good and the bad of it. No, labor is still not being represented. But the compensation is pretty good, in my opinion. Right? Chris Kenny, athletes are employees of the P4 universities and need to get paid that way. This is just kicking the problem down the road until players file a lawsuit to organize. Okay. File that lawsuit. The problem is this is the case that the universities and schools need to deal with at the time. This is the reality. If the schools, remember, all the schools signed off on it. Every single one of them signed off on it. None of these schools want their students to become employees. Because you got worker comp, you got a whole bunch more expenses coming on in. They have the reasons. They don't want to have other students that, because of their work, creates revenue for the universities like research. They don't want this slippery slope where they're employing all these people and now they can't do what they've done in the past when it comes to research. There are students that have a workers' contract with the university, but it's not under a collective bargaining agreement. And one of the problems, and I am for a collective bargaining agreement, but you're going to have a continual rotation of the student athletes. So it's going to be a lot more trickier. CBA can come into play. Collective bargaining can come into play eventually. For those who want to have a CBA, which I am one, it ain't going to matter. It ain't going to matter if you have a CBA coming in 10 years from now, if 70% of the athletic departments are going bankrupt. Because this case, this settlement wasn't codified and it wasn't followed, and the schools did not follow the rules. This right now, today, this is the reality. 3 years ago, when I started this YouTube channel, and my very first episode had to do with collective bargaining, saying that the schools needed to do this. Well, it did not happen. What happened was the continued incompetence. But now the schools have to pay the piper. And this is the settlement at hand. So we got to get through this. We have to get through this. If we do not fulfill our obligations to the settlement, the destruction is going to be far and wide across college sports. Preston from Greensboro. I think it's definitely not the chalk. Definitely not the chalk. Jose, independent contractors aren't employees. And then the CBA with a salary floor. It's the first step to incentivize players to come to the table. It does include Washington State and Oregon State. They are parties to the suit. Absolutely. Of course the university signed off on it. Well, because they were part of the suit. They were part of the class action lawsuit. So Now, I guess maybe some of you would want them to go back, say no to the settlement, and go back in the courts and really get stomped on by the House, its lawyers, and the other lawsuits. Maybe some of you don't want to pay the $2.8 billion back pay. Maybe some of you just want to pay the $20 billion back pay, or whatever the number is going to be. It's an interesting way of looking at it. But I do think some people want complete destruction in college sports because they deserve it. The powers that be. They have screwed up decade after decade after decade. But I'd rather have not this thing go complete destruction. That's just my take. They had no other choice. That's why I said at the beginning of the show, people have to start looking at this is the University of Minnesota. I'll just take my school because I don't want to offend anybody. I don't want anybody to get the wrong idea. The University of Minnesota lost. They lost. You couldn't keep having it your way. I'm not going to mention any other school because when I do that, people go, oh, I'll just stick with the Golden Gophers. My beloved Golden Gophers, you lost. The way that you've been conducting business for 50 years, no more. You lost. I know you still don't want your student athletes to become employees. You are with every other university in the country. You all are walking in the same lockstep. You have your reasons. But in the House case, you lost. You knew you were going to lose. You settled for this. People have got to start looking at it that they did not have a choice. Really, they did not have. Now you have a choice. Are you going to follow the rules that were laid down in front of everybody they signed off on? Because if you don't follow the rules, guess what? You're going to lose, and you're going to lose deeper and bigger. If this doesn't get codified by Congress, you're going to lose deeper and bigger. Happy days are not here again if this thing goes pear-shaped. Everything's going to get worse. And by the way, this settlement with the Power Four conferences, Washington State and Oregon State, Notre Dame, this is a 10-year agreement. 10 years to get out of this mess. 10 years for the back pay. Okay, now let's talk all Big Ten. And then we're going to get to your phone calls. Again, I wasn't even going to talk that much. You guys are going to talk. You're going to let me know how you're feeling when it comes to the settlement and anything else in college football. But first, all Big Ten per Athlon Sports, all Big Ten defense. We did offense yesterday. McCall, Indiana, defensive line. Now, McHale, going into the Notre Dame Fighting Irish playoff game, this is the guy that Notre Dame was most concerned of. Not D'Angelo Pons. Well, C.W. West, the big defensive lineman who went to the NFL, they were concerned about big number 5. But they were concerned about big number 6, McHale. This guy was like second or third in all of college football when it come to pressure on the pass rush. He's coming back this year. Indiana Hoosiers. Michael Kamara, holy smokes. This guy is an absolute beast. Dennis Sutton We all witness the greatness of Dennis Sutton in the playoffs or in the Big Ten if you watch Big Ten football. But in the playoffs, he was undeniable. Undeniable. Absolutely undeniable. Mateo Ungole, Oregon's what I would call a rush end, coming from the outside. Holy smokes. Holy smokes. Oregon's got some players. Oregon is absolutely stacked. That is not the only defensive player on the All Big Ten Athlon Sports. They got a couple of other guys, but this one you cannot overlook. Ungole, defensive lineman, basically your rush in. Of course, big old Derek Moore, the Michigan Wolverines, defensive lineman, Derek Moore. This is his time to really shine in 2025. The big old two big interior linemen are gone to the NFL draft. This is Derek Moore's year to put on tape, and he can be a high first-round NFL draft pick, Derek Moore. Bryce Betcher is somebody that I should be talking more of. He is quite the football player. He is quite the athlete. Bryce Betcher, if you don't know who this guy is, he's first of all, he always wanted to be an Oregon Duck. Number one. Number two, he has played for the Oregon Ducks baseball team, great baseball player, center field, an incredible athlete. Football, he's only getting better and better and better. Linebacker, the first of the all Big Ten linebackers per Athlon Sports. Bryce Betcher, when you watch Oregon, you got to watch this guy. An incredible athlete, dual sport. The Ducks, again, are loaded on defense. Gabe Atkins. I don't even know how to describe number 17. He's a linebacker. He's coming off the edge. Now, I know at one point, if you watch any fighting Illini football games, Gabe is out. They always say here he is 270 pounds. I don't think he's 270 anymore. I don't think so. But he is absolutely a monster. Gabe Atkins, Illini linebacker. Aiden Fisher, another Indiana Hoosier. One of three on the All Big Ten defense per Athlon Sports. The Hoosiers are not going to go away this year. If Fernando Mendoza can be the quarterback, I think he can be for Indiana. The way he was for the California Bears, Indiana's going to be right up there fighting for another college playoff berth. Aiden Fisher, linebacker. I think Indiana's got an all Big Ten defensive player on the line. All three levels. All three levels. This is the guy I worry about the most. Not Caleb Downs. Not any of their other great Buckeye player. Not Jeremiah Smith. Sonny Styles is the guy I fear the most when the Gophers go to the shoe on October 4th. Because this is the guy, a linebacker who, when you watch him play, he gets lost in the mix. When he's rushing the pocket, he bounces off a couple defensive linemen, offensive linemen, and suddenly he's in the face of the quarterback. Sonny Styles. I tell you, he's a player. Absolute beast. The Buckeyes. Sonny Styles. Now we're going to go into the secondary. All Big Ten defense secondary. D'Angelo Pons, one of these players. He's going to be playing on Sundays. He was all Big Ten last year. Indiana. Again, you've got Mikhail McHale. You've got Aiden Fisher. You got D'Angelo Pons. 3 guys on defense. All Big Ten. The Hoosiers are going to be a tough out again, once again in 2025. Dylan Thieneman. Now, you see him as a Purdue Boilermaker, but he transferred. He went in the portal after his sophomore year, and now he is another Oregon Duck. Another Oregon Duck on the all-defensive team, along with Ungo Ungale, along with Bryce Betcher. Wow. Now, Dylan Thieneman, his freshman year, he was absolutely sensational. His sophomore year, he dipped a little bit. The Ducks are hoping they get the guy 2 years ago, and they probably will. Big time transfer pickup for the Oregon Ducks. Dylan Thieneman, all Big Ten defense in the secondary. And of course, Caleb Downs, who's a first-team All-American. Not just first-team All-Big Ten safety. Caleb Downs, a dominant force in the secondary for your defending, reigning, undisputed national champion, Caleb Downs. And last but not least, on your All-Big Ten defense, Athlon Sports, Corey Perich, from your beloved Minnesota Golden Gophers. Preseason freshman All-American. He was a All-American freshman by the end of the season. Led freshman in interceptions. Dynamic player. Corey Perich is going to be playing offense and defense this year. Remember the name Corey Perich, Golden Gophers first team. All Big Ten defense per Athlon Sports. Zavada, who's getting a lot of recognition for being the All-American kicker. Michigan Wolverines, first team, All Big Ten special teams, field goal kicker. Zavada, Dominique Zavada, Michigan, got a great one. Ray Staken, punter from Iowa. Now, I wish, if there is an Iowa Hawkeye person in the chat room, when you listen to the Big Ten announcers, when you listen to the Big Ten Network, when you listen to the Iowa Hawkeyes YouTube channels, they call him Reese Staken. But when the one time I listened to, he's from Australia, and when Australians talk to him, interview him, he's Race Staken. So I don't know if it's Reese or Race, but anyways, he's a great punter, Australian punter, unbelievable punter, and of course, Caden Wetjen. He's not only the first team All Big Ten kick returner, he's the first team All Big Ten punt returner. So the Iowa Hawkeyes, special teams, the punter, the kick returner, the punt returner, the Iowa Hawkeyes once again dominate the preseason all special teams in the Big Ten. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Okay, now, we got through the Athlon Sports, Big Ten, ACC, Big 12. Next week, we're going to be doing the first team All SEC on offense. First team All SEC defense and special teams early next week. And then we're going to be going over in more later on in the month of June we're going to go into more detail on the impact transfer players for each conference. Because when I talk to you all, and when I talk on message boards and on X, I think it's easy to forget about some of these transfer moves during the portal that is going to be heavily impactful in these conference races. Thanks again for the football talk. Thank you, Preston from Greensboro. I know some people get upset with me because I'm talking too much football during the off season, but I can't do a live show without talking some football. Can't do it. Thank you, Preston from Greensboro. Thank you for your support, your generosity. Thank you so very much. Thank you. Anthony Carlson, Mr. Spartan. We're going to be diving in more into Michigan State football here real soon. I found it interesting that the day college football has changed happened on the 81st anniversary of D-Day, June 6, 1944. Yeah, that was a big change, right? When the United States did the invasion on Normandy Beach, France. And this is a big change in college sports. Or it could be a big change in college. It is a big change in college sports because the student athletes are going to be getting paid directly from their schools for the first time legally. Or at least it's everybody is going to do it. Everybody is going to do it. That opted into the settlement. Not every school opted into the settlement. Every A4 school did. But not every school. And there are schools that are not in A4 that opted in. Remember, the AAC, the American Athletic Conference, they've got a conference rule in which you've got to spend $10 million rev share for a certain amount of years. I don't remember if that's 2 years. Is that every 2 years or every 3 or 4 years? I don't remember. But they've got a benchmark. They've got a floor built in to how much rev share each school needs to pay their student athletes every so many years. If somebody can remind me how many years that is for the AAC. $10 million for like every 2 years, every 3 years, every 4 years. Finely tuned. PATC is nationwide sports radio. Thank you, Finely Tuned, for the kind words. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you for helping us keep our lights on. Very much appreciated, Finely Tuned. Thank you for the very kind words. Okay. I want to get to your phone calls. Before that, Craig, do you believe Jonathan Smith might be on the hot seat if he doesn't perform this season? I'm going to say no. But you did just bring in a new athletic director. So Jonathan Smith was not hired by your athletic director. So every time that relationship happens, things can get a little shaky. But it's only Jonathan Smith's second year. And I know people want a quick turnaround, right? People want a quick turnaround. People are impatient, especially with the portal. You can have a big-time flip of a roster. You should be able to take, and now Kirk Cignetti that whole thing that happened at Indiana, every team is going, every fan base is going, why do we suck this year when Indiana can flip it around in 1 year? Why can't we do the same thing? So Cignetti did Jonathan Smith and a whole lot of coaches no favors with the big quick turnaround from Indiana. I don't know. We're going to have to, again, early in the spring, we did a way too early order finish of prediction for the Power Four conferences. We're going to do it again officially in August. But between now and August, we're going to be doing spotlights. Remember last year we did a spotlight team. One team, pretty much every live show that I did. I spent about 3 or 4 or 5 minutes on a certain team. We're going to do that again this off season. We're going to probably crank that up either late next week or the week after. So I'll make sure that Michigan State is one of the first spotlight teams that we focus on. I don't know, man. I still have hopes for the quarterback, but he's got to make a larger jump this year, right? I love Joe Rossi. The defense has got to make a big jump this year. So anyway, we'll talk Michigan State, Anthony Carlson. We will talk Michigan State pretty soon here. Greg, who's supposed to monitor the schools so they do not cheat on this? The Sports Commission. They just hired the CEO. Every school has to submit their rev share numbers. Who's getting paid what? That gets submitted to the Sports Commission. The revenue that the athletic departments are using gets reported to the Sports Commission. The NIL deals, they have to be submitted to the clearinghouse. And if a deal does not get submitted, if a player gets some money, the player could find themselves ineligible. The booster who gave them that money can be basically deleted from that. That university ain't going to want these guys hanging around. If the punishment comes in hard and swiftly. So buckle up. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. He needs protection and good wide receivers to do well. George is wondering why it's impossible to find a replacement for Bobo, the offensive coordinator. Steve O, what do you think the Sun Belt and the Conference USA schools do? Boy, that's a good question. That is a good question. When you're asking about the rev share, I don't know, to be honest with you. I think there's probably going to be some schools that will participate. And if they do, then they're part of the back pay. Right? I mean, and I think that question, Steve-O, could be asked about all the G6 schools. Now, Washington State and Oregon State are going to have rev share. Boise State's going to have rev share. The AAC schools are going to have rev share. Liberty, right? Liberty. They're going to have rev share. I've heard that James Madison is going to have rev share. But again, I haven't heard any reporting that a Sunbelt conference or a CUSA conference are going to have any conference rule wrapped around rev share like the AAC is going to have, right? It's a very good question, Steve-O, and I don't have the answer. And here's another problem. A lot of this ain't going to be public, or none of this is going to be public. Like, we're not going to quite know what school is spending what on rev share. None of that is going to be public. I don't believe any of that is going to be public. Now, the Knights Commission, and there are other public tools out there that when a school produces their expenses and their revenue for a particular fiscal year, which runs from July 1st to June 30th, like July 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2025, which is coming up in 23 days. That's one fiscal year. There is reporting on expenses. And maybe we'll be able to figure out rev share expenses in some of that reporting. Maybe not, but maybe. I don't know. So when we look at the Knights Commission revenue for Liberty and we look at the expenses, maybe in that pie chart, maybe somewhere it's going to say revenue for players, and then it's going to put out a number, 8.6 million, whatever the number is. Maybe we'll learn it. But I'm guessing not. The number will be leaked or hacked. Maybe the number is going to be leaked, but how do we trust that number? I don't know. I don't take really any of these NIL deals for certain players. The number, I don't, I think there's a lot of fabrication going on with those numbers. So it'd probably be the same thing for how much the school is spending on rev share. Kevin Hampton, my guess is Fresno State and San Diego State will also have rev share. Not sure about Colorado State and Utah State. Could be interesting. Okay, let's take a look at something else here. Christy Dosh put this out on her X account, talking about this, the Deloitte clearinghouse. The question was, it has been reported that NIL Go will determine fair market value for each deal. Is that true? The answer is no. NIL Go does not calculate fair market value for each third-party NIL deal. NIL Go's range of compensation determines whether the subject deal submitted by the student athlete does not exceed a reasonable range of compensation based on multiple factors. So I want to focus in on the factors. Okay? Including, but not limited to, the deal's performance obligations. What does the player need to do for this deal? Is it just putting his face on a water bottle? What does the player need to do to give his name, image, and likeness? What company is it going to? What is the business deal? Okay? The deal's performance obligations. What is the obligations of the student athlete? The student athlete's athletic performance. Are we looking at a guy here who, who's the backup kicker and he goes 3 for 20, gets the hook, and then next year, what is the performance of the player? The social media reach. Does the player have 3 million followers? Then it's going to have his name, image, and likeness is going to be more impactful. The local market and the market reach of his or her institution and program. And that's going to be a big one. The local market. What type of market is the player going to be in? I think larger the market's going to be more advantageous for the player. However, the market reach of his institution and program, some program institutions have a much more intensive reach into their market. So some of the smaller market programs might not be negatively affected by this, the guardrails that Deloitte is putting around trying to figure out true range of compensation. So those are the things that is going to be analyzed by whatever AI program Deloitte is going to be using. The range of compensation, if that number comes in and that number is not in this certain range, they're going to be really looking at it. They're going to be seeing what market you're in, what type of reach you have on social media, what type of athletic performance do you truly have to deny or to approve the NIL submission. Here is the roadmap. I know it's kind of hard to read. Here is the roadmap. Settlement approved. That was June 6th. June 11th, NIL, the portal launches. Submit your NIL deal starting on June 11th. And then they got June 15th. That's the deadline for schools to fully commit to revenue sharing. So if there's some schools out there that really want to commit, you've got a deadline of June 15th if you haven't committed yet. And then July 1st is the first date. Direct institutional revenue sharing payments to the student athletes. July 1st. So July 1st, are these players going to get paid right away? I mean, their first check is going to come in? So there is the roadmap. You can look at the timeline. Look at the roadmap. Again, what Deloitte is doing is they're trying to eliminate the pay for play, where a player is just getting compensated, and it has nothing to do with their name, image, and likeness market. The Deloitte Clearinghouse is going to make this all go pear-shaped. No, the Deloitte Clearinghouse is going to follow the rules directed by the schools that signed on in the settlement. I don't want this is your school's responsibility. Your schools created this clearinghouse. It's given clearinghouse the guidelines. Same thing with the enforcement arm. Now, this enforcement arm is separate, but it's separate from the NCAA. But your schools hired the CEO. So what I'm trying to do is I don't want Deloitte, the enforcement arm, or any other part of this to become the boogeyman. Like we all did with the NCAA. You're the boogeyman. You're the boogeyman. Your school is the boogeyman. James Davis, the clearinghouse will not stop under the table money. If you get caught, there's going to be punishment. If you don't get caught, just like anything else in life, you're not going to get punished. But when you get caught, that player is going to become highly possible ineligible to play college sports. That is the punishment that the schools agreed on. And the person that is given the money is going to be a non-player in your collectives, anywhere around your institution. That person is going to get eliminated. I don't mean, buried 6 feet under. Guys, this is your school trying to have everybody play by the rules. Let the lawsuits come in, but your school has to play by the rules that it's signed up on. Line those lawyers up. Line them up. And hopefully, what that will do is to spurn Congress into codifying these rules. The lawsuits are going to come, but that's not the story. The story is Congress going to codify this settlement? Give federal antitrust exemption. Make it so that these schools can form a governing body to be able to enforce its own rules. Because if it doesn't get codified, and these lawyers all come on in with their lawsuits, and this blows up, your school is not going to be able to run away from the effects. It's only going to get worse, not better. Congress never solved anything. Congress, okay, you can laugh, but that's your only shot. That is your only shot. What do you guys want to have happen right now? What do you want to happen? They would get in trouble because kids showed up in a if a student athlete gets a car starting now basically or in another week where these NIL things have to be submitted, and if it gets attached to a certain person who gave you that car, that student athlete, they're going to be players that are going to lose their eligibility in these rules, in this punishment. Because if they came onto your school, they signed an NIL deal, they opted in to these new rules. Eventually, somebody's got to follow the rules, right? Your school signed on to it. Not every athlete's going to sign on to it, but most of them are. Okay, let's go to your phone lines. 763-260-1333. 763-260-1333. If I was a Go Black 45, if I was a booster, I would offer the most outrageous offer on purpose just to sue these idiots as fast as I can. Are you offering a student athlete? Most of these collectives are in-house. LSU do not want to lose their top players. LSU signed on to this deal, Go Black 45. They don't want their players to become ineligible. They want their players' NIL deals to be submitted to Deloitte. So if a booster offers a whole bunch of money to a player and it gets found out, it's not good for LSU. That's why all these schools, especially in the SEC, have made their collectives come in-house so they can have control over this. It's the SEC that wanted a tight, legit clearinghouse. I think some of you guys are going to have to get over the fact that, yes, there's going to be cheating going on, of course, but if it gets caught, there's going to be penalties to this, and they're going to be severe. Now, if this does not get codified, if there's not an antitrust exemption, if all these lawsuits are going to come in and actually have impact like the House did, then everything's going to be destroyed. And what are we going to be talking about here at Peek Around the Corner? You only can celebrate destruction so much. Oh, I hope all this blows up. Okay, what do you have left? What do you have left? We can't get the collective bargaining right now. We cannot wish we can't get there right now. This is a settlement deal. It goes on for 10 years, and we have an obligation to fulfill the settlement. If we don't, that $2.8 billion is going to go to $20 billion. Guys, like I said before, the school's already lost. This is the punishment for losing. Phone lines are open, 763-260-1333. Somebody sent me this. Oh, Winter. Not a ringing endorsement of the effectiveness of the Sports Commission NIL goal, regulating booster deals. Many expect 40 to 50 million football team payrolls, which means as much as 30 million in booster money flowing to the team athletes. Okay, what's wrong with that? If it passes the Deloitte clearinghouse, what is wrong with that? What if the name, image, and likeness deals are actually pretty still big for the big time players? And none of these lawyers, excuse me, but someone's got to say it. None of these lawyers on X, not a one of them, not a one of them, because I've had conversations with all of them on X. Not a one of them wants to tell you what is going to happen if this does not get codified. They don't want to tell you. You know what happens if this doesn't get codified or the teams don't follow the rules? The lawyers are going to make out like gangbusters and athletic departments are going to go bankrupt. Let me tell you something else. These lawyers that you're seeing on X, who are they getting paid? Who's paying them? Agents. Why are the agents paying these lawyers to put this stuff out constantly on X? The agents want control. They want to be able to control. A couple of billionaires tied to a couple of agents, they want to control everything. We are litigating ourselves to death, college sports. And some of you are cheering all this on. Wow.
Call from
Jose, fight on.
Jose, the floor is yours. Thanks for calling, sir. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me go for Godfather. I have a question because I think we both agree that a CBA would be the ideal and a perfect world solution for all of this. So for a CBA, from the way I understand it, is students wouldn't be able to enlist in that. It would have to be not necessarily an employee, but what about a independent contractor? Because independent contractors they're not technically employees. They're just what basically these student athletes are right now. They're with NIL, they're just independent contractors. You know, they can be a gun for hire or whatever.
Yeah.
They have no health benefits, no 401k. So they're already independent contractors. What would be the downside of, and I don't know if it would have to be an act of Congress literally to label them from student athletes into independent contractors. Well, is that something the university presidents would be on board with, or for some reason they would not want that?
Yeah, well, so far it doesn't seem like any of them are on board with even that. And again, it's something that should have happened 3 years ago, right?
Right.
Right now we're in this settlement that all the schools signed off on, so we gotta navigate the next 10 years.
Right. Yeah. So I see it as we got 10 years to figure out what the next step is going to be, because we don't want to be on year 9 and then we're running around like chickens with their heads cut off all over again.
We need for this to get codified, and then we need to actually fulfill the obligations. And then hopefully in year 8, 9, and 10, we create something else. But again, people who are like AMAC, not cheering it on, Greg, just being realistic. AMAC, I think I'm being realistic. Because if this doesn't get codified, if we don't follow the rules, exactly what do you think is going to happen, AMAC? And a lot of other people in the chat room, what do you think is going to happen? We're going to have destruction. I don't think people are truly getting it. I still think most people are not getting this. It's almost like, boy, we don't want to go by that rule. We don't want to go by that rule, and it's going to be impossible. And well, if we don't follow the rules, the House is going to rip it up, the settlement, and they're going to tag your school for at least 10 times the amount that you owe now. They've already said it. They've already beaten us. I don't know. I don't quite understand. It's almost like people are cheering on destruction. That's what I've been getting for months on this huge issue. Go ahead.
Yeah, and anytime the word eligibility is brought up, it always brings me back to what Brett Kavanaugh had said.
Hold on. I'm sorry, Jose. AMAC.
Yeah.
I don't see how you can restrict anybody's earning potential. AMAC. It doesn't matter at this point. That's my point. it's almost this house thing with a couple other lawsuits. It's already happened. Like, the schools already saw defeat. They did not want to pay out. They already lost. This is part of the settlement. And you got to fulfill this settlement. So again, I'm for a CBA, but does that mean that because I think there's something better out there, I think we should destroy this. Okay, if we destroy this, if we don't fulfill the obligations, if it doesn't get codified, we're never going to get to what you want, AMAC, because everything's going to be destroyed before we get to it. This is real. I mean, this isn't perfect. It's not close to perfect. It may not work. It ain't going to work unless it gets codified. But we already lost 60-7 on the scoreboard. The House is determining. The lawyers are saying, okay, if you do this, this will be good enough. But if you can't fulfill this, we're gonna screw you. We're gonna really go after you guys. That is what's happened already. Go ahead, Jose.
Yeah, I mean, all of these attorneys are chomping at the bit, just trying to litigate it to death, and they don't care about killing the golden goose. They're just looking at their own individual
they don't
payday.
care. These lawyers don't care about. They're not looking at the future. They're getting paid, guys. They're getting paid by these agents. These agents are loving what we got going on. They're just dealing with a few billionaires. They're just dealing with a few schools. They don't want. You think they all want a CBA? They're just playing this game, guys. They're screwing everybody. I'm being honest. I know that some of these lawyers are getting paid by agents and they're being advocates. This is their full-time jobs, and people keep falling for this. This is the settlement. This is the one that we got to get through. And if we don't get codification, none of this is going to matter. These other lawsuits that are going to come in are going to destroy everything. Okay? But if it does get codified, you damn well better follow the rules, because if you don't, the House lawyers are going to rip it up anyways. This is the world we live in now. We don't live in a CBA world. Hopefully we do. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years from now, we can get it going. But right now, that's not even a possibility. We're not even going to get there if we can't fulfill the obligations of this one court case that we would have gotten obliterated if we would have followed through the court case for the next 5 years. Jose, that's the last time I interrupt you. I promise. I apologize. You got as much time as you want. Go ahead, sir.
No, it's just that whenever the word eligibility comes up, it takes me back to that Supreme Court ruling of, January 2021. And I don't think the way to resolve any breaches in these agreements would be to punish a student, because then it goes just right back to the Supreme Court, which they've already ruled on. I think holding I don't want to pick on Tennessee, but say Tennessee says, our state says we're okay in doing this, and then so what? Our player got caught with a brown bag. We're going to play him anyways. We got a big game this Saturday. I don't think the athlete needs to be punished. I think that's just that's going to just bait an attorney to try to take this to the Supreme Court and make a name for themselves. Major League Baseball, it piqued my interest that they appointed that CEO that had some kind of ties with Major League Baseball, Sealy. Major League Baseball, if the Yankees overspend and go over their cap, they don't punish the player. They take some kind of retribution against the Yankees themselves.
Yeah.
And I think that would be the way to hold the institutions accountable, and don't drag the player back into court. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're going to do both. The institution is going to look. This is what's going on right now. The SEC schools, the Big Ten schools, these schools, they are telling their athletes, they are telling their student athletes, you better deal with our in-house collective on the NIL deals. You better deal with because we are going to follow the rules. We are going to submit it. Okay? If you go somewhere else, if you go get money from somewhere else, outside of us, you are endangering your eligibility because the guy that you're working with, the guy who's going to pay you $200,000 in a McDonald's bag, he may or may not submit that to Deloitte, but we are, because we don't want to lose you. We don't want you to lose your eligibility, and we don't want to face the consequences. So the punishment is designed to go to the school and to the player, and is the reason why these schools are bringing their collectives in-house, because they want control. The worst thing that can happen, if you submit something to NIL and they say, no, this is denied, okay, it comes back to you, and now you've got a choice. We're going to resubmit this deal at a lower number, okay? Players still going to get paid this NIL money, going to be lower. Or, as we have learned in the last month of more reporting, you can pretend that it wasn't denied, keep that deal going, but again, you are endangering your eligibility. And these schools don't want to go down that route. So that's how this is supposedly going to work.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That shows a lot more clarity to it. All right. Thank you so much, Gopher Godfather. That's all I had.
You got it, buddy. Appreciate it.
Thank you for your time. Yep. Yeah. My pleasure. Fight on.
Fight on, USC. Hold on, everybody. Hold on. Give me a minute. I want to thank everybody for joining us. I do really appreciate it. Saturday afternoon, there are so many more things you could be doing, enjoying your time, your life, instead of listening to the cranky fat guy from Minnesota. Hold on. Let me just clean something up here. Okay, great call by Jose. No question about it. A cranky gopher, cranky tiger, or cranky gopher. Again, I hear you, Greg. I don't feel sorry for these greedy bastards and the system they created to take advantage of the kids and adults. They created the abusive system and milked it. True. Now, this is what I don't want to happen. I don't want that $2.8 billion back pay damages to go to $20 billion or more. The reason I don't want that to happen is not so much the effect on the athletic departments, in which it's going to be absolutely brutal, but the effects on the student athletes today and tomorrow. I don't want any more opportunities to dry up. I completely understand that the labor did not have representation in this deal. I can still go to sleep at night, put my head on a pillow, and at least acknowledge that the House lawyers were looking after the current and future labor. The rev share is a mess. The rev share itself makes it so 95% of the football players and basketball players in the two major revenue sports are getting paid more money than ever before. So we can't lose sight that your student athlete is having more higher benefits than ever before. It doesn't mean it's perfect. It's not the way that I would want it to come about through a class action lawsuit instead of a CBA. But this is where we're at right now. And if we don't fulfill the obligations of this, if we get fortunate enough that this gets codified and we still screw this up, then I'm going to be blaming the universities, because they're the ones that once again could not draw inside the lines. They had to, whatever for reason, not follow the rules. If this thing gets codified and it goes pear-shaped, boy. And by the way, the boosters want the rev share. I mean, there's a lot of people who wanted this. I don't know. It's not the lawyer's job to protect the future of college sports. Their job is to represent their client to the best of their ability. Okay? And it is my job here at Peek Around the Corner to tell you the truth as I see it. And the truth is, I don't want to absolutely cook the golden goose, to strip it bare to where sports get annihilated at the highest level of college. I want these student athletes to have as much opportunities as possible. They're getting more compensation as possible. I don't want these lawyers to, I better not go down this pathway, but a lot of them are well-intended people. But again, it's their clients that they're looking after, and I'm looking after college sports. I want football to exist. I don't want perfect to be the enemy of, I don't even want to say good. I don't want perfection to be the enemy of what we got to get done right now. Okay, first of all, I want to thank everyone who donated to help us keep the lights on here. I do really appreciate it on a Saturday afternoon. Anthony Carlson, who was a member for 14 months. 14 months, holy smokes. Officially knighted Cloak and Dagger, Anthony Carlson. Preston from Greensboro, Steve-O, and finally Toon. Thank you guys for your donation. I want to thank everybody who's joined us today for your comments. Jose with the wonderful phone call. Again, if you're new to the channel, or if we haven't done it yet, please hit the subscribe button. Smash that like button if you've liked our content. Today was just a simple Saturday, day after live show. The big breaking news that we covered live last night. If you missed it, go back and watch it. Friday night. Last night, we went through the details of the settlement. I did not want to spend any time doing that today. We talked about the all Big Ten defense per Athlon Sports. We talked about the roadmap going forward and about the Deloitte. A vague guidelines on what they're going to be looking at when they are going to deny or approve these NIL deals. So I want to thank all you guys. Thank you, Architect. Thank you, AMAC. Thank you, Cranky Tiger. When does realignment start again, Greg? Well, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that. The big plane has landed, Go Black 45. This need to land first. And again, next Thursday, there's going to be this House subcommittee talking about this, trying to get all this codified. I don't know what the chances of Congress getting this done. It's probably pretty small. And if they don't get it done, none of this matters, because it's going to get crushed. And the aftermath of it getting crushed, it's too depressing to think about. But I'm going to have to report on it. It's going to get bad. If Congress does not codify this settlement, does not give the conferences the ability to enforce their own rules, eligibility rules, revenue share, if college sports does not get some sort of limited antitrust exemption, none of this matters. None of it's going to matter. We are in for a world of hurt. Until next time, from all of us at College Football's Peek Around the Corner to all of you, please you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.